Todd Stiefel is a very wealthy atheist, and he wants to use his millions of dollars to make atheism a civil rights issue. So he's used literally $3.5 million, and that's all his own money, to basically push education on atheism so people will understand that it's not some evil thing, that it's not something that you should discriminate against. And, you know, he did give a speech that I want to show you guys, and then we'll discuss and we'll, you know, figure out whether or not this really is a civil rights issue.
We value teaching how to think, not what to think. We value science over the supernatural as an explanation for the world around us. We believe and value forming opinions based on reason, not authority. We believe moral principles are tested based on their consequences, not on the dictates of ancient books and preachers.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, first off, I think it's kind of funny that God was raining on his parade as he was giving his big speech. Somebody was going to say it, but didn't he had like that firebrand preacher thing to him. So atheists, even if they don't believe in God, often are using the same tactics and the same playbook that the people that they rail against.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because they're against organized religion, but this looks a lot like organized religion. But I will say that it's important for them to have events like this because of the fact that they are discriminated against. So, you know, one example that comes up off the top of my head is, you know, a lot of elected officials, if they say that they're atheist or agnostic, they're not going to get elected. You mentioned one person who was an atheist.
Pete Sart was an atheist. He was the only atheist in Congress for a while. He's out of office now. Kristen Sinema now is in office, and she's a non-believer. And so I think we're still at 1 out of 535 Congress.
Bernie Sanders, what about him? I feel like he would.
No, he's Jewish.
He's just, but I feel like he wouldn't believe in God. He's more
we're
into
just
granola.
guessing. Yeah, he's never said like
We could put him on like half of Bernie Sanders, maybe.
Okay. Half a Bernie and one Sinema. So, look, I actually largely don't agree with you guys. I think that atheists and agnostics have been crushed throughout history. Now, you guys, I know you know that, right?
Yeah.
And so they haven't had any rallies because if they did, you know, at least way back in the day, they would have gotten lynched, right? But even recently, you know, they're so frowned upon, and it's the one category when you ask pollsters, you know, what are you, or pollsters ask people, what are you less likely to vote for? It comes in under gays. Okay, like I'll vote for a gay black guy before I vote for an atheist. Right. So the fact that they're getting organized now, I think, is great. And in fact, I'm a believer in doing evangelical work for agnosticism. Right. And in fact, I gave a speech, and I remembered later, in the middle of this week, that he was at the speech that I gave from the Freedom from Religion Foundation about how we need to go into the world and fight back in an organized way and almost do missionary work to fight against religion. Because we've been pounded on all these centuries and millennium. There's no reason not to fight back. There's no reason not to get organized. Yeah,
look, and that's what I was going to get to. Look, it's ironic, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. You do have to get organized in order to spread your message, in order to educate others, because a lot of this hatred and discrimination stems from ignorance, right? So a lot of people, I don't even think not most, but I think people that like really hate atheists don't even really understand what atheism is. So educating them is the most important thing. And, you know, I liked his speech. It was, you know, very passionate. And I think the way that he worded it in the very beginning can be misinterpreted by a lot of people because he says, we teach people how to think. And it's not like what to believe, but how to think critically. That's what he was trying to say.
Yeah. Well, also, you know, the idea that atheists don't believe in anything is not true. I find that, at least in the atheists that I've spoken to, they believe in themselves. And to me, that's the most important thing that you can believe, and then you can pick a series of other things and people and whatever, you know, imaginary spaghetti monster in the sky that you want to believe in too, but believing in yourself. And unfortunately, religion in many ways has become this thing that needs you to not believe in yourself, to then, because they, you know, it's a numbers game and they need you to need them.
And religion is, like, if you're not bought into it and you didn't grow up in it, it's such a trippy thing. Everything that's good is because of God. Everything that's a mistake is yours. Think about how, like, guilty that makes somebody feel. Like, You could never take credit for anything. You can't feel good about yourself. But if you've done something wrong, well, it can't be. God's perfect. Can't be God. It has to be your loser ass, right? So it's so self-destructive in a lot of ways. And yeah, look, 20% of the country now, that's a giant percentage, are non-believers. So they might be spiritual, but they don't believe in a specific religion, right? So that's a huge category, but they have almost no political power. So this guy's coming saying, hey, you know what, I got some money, and we've got so many conservative right-wingers in this country, so many religious fundamentalists who are willing to spend so much money in politics and in organized groups to fight for their version of things so that they can enforce their will and their religion upon us. I think it's awesome that we've got at least one rich guy in the country who's saying, oh yeah, I got money too, and I'm going to fight back. And look at how much good, honestly, political spending and organizing has done in the gay rights movement, right? Yeah. And then once they started doing political donations, all of a sudden, all the politicians were like, gay rights, yeah, I'm involved in my position, right? Yeah. So, and my guess is, just as in the gay rights community, in the non-believer community, there's probably an enormous number of wealthy people, very, very successful people. If they put their money behind that movement, well, then we'd have a lot more of an even match.